Hey there everyone, welcome back to On the Flip Side. It's time for a review of this new Action Bronson album, Cocodrillo Turbo. Now, I've never been the most in-depth with Action Bronson's albums. I mean, they are generally on a level of fine to pretty good. The lyrics are usually catchy, the beats are solid, and one of the best ways that I've been able to describe Action Bronson's brand of rap to other people is exceptionally intoxicated. The bars on this album specifically sound like someone who is just incredibly baked, just kind of saying words at like a stream of consciousness level and writing down the stuff that sounds somewhat funny or entertaining. And you know, that's cool, but this doesn't really strike me as a comedy record, but that ends up not being a big deal because this project doesn't seem to take itself too seriously anyway. And the music is pretty non-committal in that way. There's a lot of very straightforward lyricism and catchy beats, but there is a little bit of a lack of a strong idea or messages. And I don't really think I have a problem with that. After all, I did go into this knowing that this is the guy who bought the rights to Ancient Aliens to film himself and his friends getting really high and reacting to those old episodes of Ancient Aliens. And I know that's a really specific example, but it really shows here. There's a pretty good level of entertainment value here. It's not just like a mental experience. It's kind of like mac and cheese in that it's not really doing anything for your health, but it's always a winner. So if you're looking for a general picture or look into this album, look no further than track number 3, Estaciones. The bars from Hologram on this track are just fantastic. Hand wash my drawers and hang them from the clothing line. Album's on sale. I'm working on a clothing line. I hold the spine of some foes of mine. The gun strapped behind the toilet cause I'm with the shits. I wouldn't hit your bitch. She smells like fish and grits, shrimp and grits, death and pure wickedness. I'm the weed man to that bitch you got a crush on. I knock $100 off the zip to get my fuck on. That's $5.50 interior, big and brown like my son's eyes. Every bitch pussy to me is only one size. And she my little fuck thing. I eat the pussy like a mukbang. Let my nuts hang. I got 2 things to say, yo. I'm drinking and drugging. Your side and main bitch call me their husband. You microdose while you wifing hoes. I macrodose while I'm macking hoes. Make a fiend sniff crack through their nose. The fact that we're getting a mukbang line here alone nearly took me out of my seat on my first listen of this one. I really don't know what timeline we're living in anymore, but it's getting more and more surreal by the day. I think that a lot of the strong suits of this album aren't necessarily always Action Bronson's lines. I do like his very straightforward delivery and his really defined enunciation, but I think that where this album shines is in its very laid-back beats that draw a lot from like 1960s rock with some really crazy cool organ samples and lots of sampled guitars that would feel right at home in like a Quentin Tarantino movie. And I think one of the better examples of the beat being better than the lyrics generally is on Sub-Zero, which doesn't always tend to land that well. And I mean, the structure is all there, but it's more like the bars are kind of just passing by as a way to provide an extra element to a solid beat. I have similar feelings with the track Turkish. I'm feeling a really cool jazzy vibe on this track with a lot of really cool, catchy off-kilter moments. Feature from Mayhem Lauren is quite good. At the very least, Bronson does a really great job on this album picking features. They tend to work in a really complimentary way to his frankly blunt delivery. And I wouldn't really call any of the bars on this album from Bronson bad, but he does have a formula that he sticks to, which is fine, but like I said, it's mostly very surface level in meaning. And I say mostly because there are some incredibly specific references that he tends to make in every track. However, they usually tend to be so hyper specific that unless you're like Googling and sitting down like at your computer just looking up these lines, you would have no idea what the hell he's talking about. And I'm sure that Bronson's stylistic choices here for using these incredibly specific bars is kind of cool. It's not really a new thing for hip-hop, but he does a decent job piecing these things together. And I think one of the best things about this album is the generally well-balanced track listing. While this isn't really a hugely impressive release, it is a very tight one that paces itself very well. And from top to bottom, this album is generally a breeze to get through, which is a really nice change from a lot of the more recent rap records from bigger names. And the whole thing ends on a pretty high note with Storm of the Century. This is probably the most forward-thinking track on the album. I love the beat, which feels like a nod to The Doors with Riders on the Storm. This song also has some of the best lines from Bronson on the album, and I also really love the saxophone from Young Mexico, which is really moody and plays along really nicely with the beat, which they kind of let ride till the end of the album to let it fade out. Like I said at the beginning of this review, I haven't always followed Action Bronson all that closely, and this album kind of makes me see why. And it's a decent album. It's very easy to get through. It's a quick listen, but it generally, for me, feels like it fumbles its lines or maybe just kind of goes over my head at some points. Admittedly, it does feel like a little bit much at certain points on the album, but at the very least, I think I'm going to be revisiting this one for quite a while. Cocodrillo Turbo is a solid 6. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of the album in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe, and check out my Instagram, my Reverb store, and my Depop. Links to those are all in the description below. Thank you all so much again, and we'll see you on the flip side.